Yes, go.
Yeah, like what is one from more recent times that you think actually did work?
So there's a lot of them that are working now. I think now it's different because we have this generation of filmmakers that actually played games. I think that's why, because now the people that play games from my generation, I'm now 43. I started playing games when I was 6 with a Spectrum, and so my generation is now starting to make films, and that's why you have this connection. I feel like just recently, Mortal Kombat from 2021 really nails it. And I think that film...
Loved it.
Yeah, that film is really interesting because even when you look at the behind the scenes, you see they love the game, they know everything about the game, and they really wanted to make homage. The only thing I must say is that I think the film is so deep in lore that I'm sure it's difficult for anyone that has not played the games to understand it.
I had no idea what was going on.
Exactly.
No idea.
Exactly, because they didn't explain anything.
Yeah, I should really have said right at the beginning that despite my obsession with computer graphics and visual effects, I am not a gamer. I just don't happen to own a console. I've played games in my teen years in a big way, Nintendo, SNES, and
brought my
Nintendo
t-shirt
64. Like yeah, exactly.
Brought my t-shirt.
But I don't play games, but I am obsessed also with films based on games because I'm always curious if they work or not.
Yeah.
Now with Mortal Kombat, I had seen, of course, the original Mortal Kombat from whenever that was, the
99, 98 or something like that.
Yeah. And, it's a product of its time. I don't think it worked back then.
No.
Had some interesting visual effects things going on.
Yeah.
This one, it's just, what it does is, it just gets straight into it. It just knows the story it needs to tell, and it just does it. And that's what I liked about it.
That's cool about it because they pulled no punches. Like, it's like, okay, guys, anyone on the cinema, they probably played the game. And that's it. Like, because if you played the game, you know everything that is going on. Like, every single thing. Like, because this film is so lore heavy, everything is correct, from Kano ripping his heart. That is the first fatality that Kano does on the game, from the actual the dragon, the big dragon swallowing the other guy. That's also the fatality of Liu Kang. Like, all these things are exactly correctly made, like it's so exact that you're watching the game. All the moves, all the actual martial art moves that you see from Scorpion, all the moves that you see from Sub-Zero, the sword that he has, Sub-Zero's sword with ice, the way that he controls ice and particles, that all is exactly from the game, especially from the rebooted game from 2009. Like, so at some point, Mortal Kombat has a long history. They have like 20 games, and it went really well, and then it became worse and worse and worse, and then it became really bad. The games were terrible. And then there was a huge reboot on 2009 by a studio called NetherRealms, which is an amazing studio. They also do Injustice. And they created this reboot for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 in 2009, and it really revolutionized Mortal Kombat. It kind of like brought a new sphere. And I think most of this film is based on that game. And now, of course, Mortal Kombat 10 and Mortal Kombat 11, which is the games. 11 is the one that came out like a couple of months ago, like about a year ago. So yeah,
I've got to say that as a non-gamer, I enjoyed the film. It's just a fun plot.
Yeah.
But also, as a watching experience, it's pretty full on. It's pretty violent.
Yeah.
But actually, that's really exciting to watch because I would say possibly some of these big films that are based on more horror genre games pull their punches a little bit and possibly don't, depending on the rating that they're going for. This one, it doesn't care, does it?
No.
You see a lot of stuff going on.
These fatalities are, and also like, there's like at least 3 fatalities on the game, and the first one you see, which is the girl being split in half by the hat, by Liu Kang's hat. That one is exactly like the one on the game. Also, the one where the fire is exact, like they're all exact copies, replicas of the game, and I think that is such a fan service that they've made. Although, it's funny that you're saying that because a lot of people complain that the film doesn't go too far. Because in the game, you actually see an X-ray version of the person being killed, and you actually see the bones breaking with an X-ray vision, and you see the blood splashing inside and the organs exploding. So you even go that far in the game, and they didn't do that on the film, because I think if they would have done that on the film, I don't think they would be able to get away with the rating.
I don't think they'd get an R rating. They'd have to go higher if there is one.
But from a visual effects point of view, those fatalities are really interesting, because if you look at the behind the scenes and you look at how they shot them, there's a lot of things going on, of course, but if we focus just on those fatalities, they are a mixture of a lot of CG, of course, and a lot of particles, but they also have a lot of props on set. There's a lot of actual goo and gore and these kind of like gory, messy, bloody bags, and there's a lot of things that they've actually done practically with dolls and with props and with pieces of latex and painted little props and everything, which is really interesting, which serves as a really great base to create these visual effects,
Yeah. I felt like, here's what sometimes happens with these game films too. The reviews of the film, good or bad, often say, oh, it's full of CG game logic or CG stuff. No, they say that. I'm not weighing into whether they do or not.
Yeah, of course.
In this film, the practical side of some of those effects really elevated the response to the film and felt more grounded.
Yeah.
And, it's a lie to say that, all those fatalities and shots are digitally enhanced. There's a digital hand in them, but they seem to start with some sort of basis, which is great.
Yeah, and I think not to be. I'm going to use a trope from the game, because on the game, when you win a battle without being touched, it's called a flawless victory. The visual effects are flawless. They're really good. Like, from everything, even little moments, even like Liu Kang has these fireballs on his hands, and you have this beautiful light integration that they've done with LEDs, and even when Raiden is transporting himself with the lightning effects, you have these beautiful, the grips actually put up LED lamps all around him to actually light him correctly with the lightning. There's all this kind of sense and reality of the film, of all these little magical moments and portals. The funny thing is that it's all magical, and it's all nonsense, because it's all kind of unrealistic, of course. There's a guy with 4 arms, and there's lightning everywhere. But it's all shot so realistically because they had that practical effect on set as well, both from the supervisor and the lighting crew. It really helped. It really, really helped. The film became beautiful because of it. I feel like it's a spectacle to watch, and also it's beautifully shot. Anamorphic lenses all over the place, beautifully bokehs. You have really, really a nice depth of field. It's really, really well shot as well.
Yeah, I feel like one benefit of the film is that it seemed to be a little bit under the radar. It was shot here in Australia, in South Australia, relatively low budget, a big Warner Brothers release, during the pandemic, which is amazing. But sometimes those films are not overhyped if they're released that way, or if they're under the radar a little bit. So really great work. Couple of great visual effects studios involved. I talked to Rising Sun about their work on many of the characters, and there's some really great breakdowns in the befores and afters story. But Hugo, I'm so glad you watched it, and I'm so glad that we seem to be turning a corner a bit on these game to films.
One last thing. There's a lot more to go on Mortal Kombat, and you should go and watch it. There's a lot more, but one last thing I wanted to really mention. It's the Goro character, which is like the big boss of the first game, of the original game from the 90s, which is this big dude with 4 arms. I don't know, like people should go really and watch the behind the scenes. They are so funny.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Because there's like two guys. There's 2 guys with a blue screen suit, and they're fighting at the same time. Like, there's a guy lower with the 2 arms, and then there's a guy higher with the other 2 arms, and so there's like 2 dudes fighting him at the same time. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Like, it's so funny to watch those behind the scenes.
Yeah.
No, but
But it works, doesn't it?
It works really well. Yeah, the film's visual effects, I guess, like for me, highlights of the day really was the slow motion bullet moment. There's like the Sub-Zero freezes the gun while the bullet is still coming out of it. That is a really badass moment. It's really beautiful. The arms breaking from Jack is also really important, which is also like a point of the plot of the game where Jack really loses his arms and then they have to put metallic arms. That visual effect on itself, every time Jax is on the screen, it's a huge visual effect because the guy is so big. And then he has like these almost transparent, really thin metallic arms that you see through. So they had to have massive amounts of cleanup to try to put the background back. And there's like handheld cameras going on, people walking around, and he's just like with this green screen t-shirt with dots. It's really, really powerful. But then you also have like some beautiful frozen swords as well. You have the ice blocks, everything.
Hugo, we gotta move on, man.
I know. Guys, go and see it because it is a spectacle. It's a spectacle.
Okay.
You know?